If you're going to remove a cast iron sink with a flush mounting ring like this, here's some tips, some things to watch out for, especially if you're going to do it by yourself. These things are really heavy, 100, 150 pounds. Can be dangerous if you're not careful. I'm replacing this with this stainless sink. I already did some pre-measuring. I got a laminate top here. Double check everything and make sure it's going to fit. You can make the hole bigger on this laminate top, but obviously you can't make it smaller, so make sure your measurements are good. I got the water shut off. I do have a reverse osmosis thing under there too, so I'm going to drain that tank a little bit just to kind of lighten the load. These osmosis things can be a little weird. Those hoses, if you have those, whether the push connect, I take a little crescent wrench, make it about the size of the hose. You push in on that ring as you're pulling out on the hose, and it'll let go for you. So all your hoses are like that, and then work on getting all your drain pipes out from under there. Obviously the trap's going to have some water in it, so you want to catch your messes and all that stuff. But dishwasher hose, same thing. You're going to have some nasty water in there. Make sure you drain that so it doesn't go all over the floor. And then get the rest of your drain pipes off. I'm going to show you why you need to strip this whole thing. Stuff a rag or a paper towel in your drain hole there to keep it from stinking up the place while you're working. I got dishwasher line and the supply lines to the faucet. We get the faucet lines off. Obviously the water's shut off. I'm sure you know that. And then work on getting your strainer baskets off. These ones with the big bell have that retainer nut on the bottom. Get those off. If they're rusted, you might be able to cut it with a hacksaw. And then if it's stuck, you can try tapping it with a hammer like that. Well, this thing's stuck pretty good, so I got a chisel in there and kind of loosened it up. And then you can pull that bell off or even tap up on the threaded part, and the rest of it will just should just come right out of there, and then get those out of the way and get them cleaned up real good. And I'll show you why here, because that's how you're going to get it out. You're going to grab it by those two holes and pull it out because it's so stinking heavy. Underneath, this is the really, really important thing. You have to make sure those retainer clips that are holding that on there, there should be some little pins like that coming out of that ring that are actually holding that cast iron sink from falling. If those little tabs aren't there, you need to brace up this sink from underneath somehow. But you need to make sure every single one of those pins is, 90 degrees, and it's going to hold that sink when you pull those clips off. Because if those things are rusted and they're not there, or they're not properly bent over, that sink's going to fall right on your head, and you're going to have a hard time getting out from under it if you're not dead. So make sure all those things are there, and then you can all the way around. And then you can take those clips off. The sink is going to move just a little bit, more than likely. But get all your clips off, and then you'll notice on top that you can see where the sink fell down, just a fuzz. You can take a putty knife and go around the outside of the ring as well to make sure it's loose and there's no silicone or anything. But this one is pretty clean, so I think I'm good to go as far as I got everything unhooked. I'm going to give it a yank and hopefully, won't kill myself here. Like I said, these things are every bit 100 pounds up to probably 150 pounds. So having some help doing this is a good idea, but if you got a little bit of muscle, you can probably get it out of there. Everything's in pretty good shape. I dry fit this thing, and I do have to cut these corners a little bit. That's the outside of the sink there with the pencil. The black mark is what I have to cut. Honestly, I feel bad about this because I got a real shitty blade in here. Not a good idea. I usually have a sharp blade with me, but I'm out in the middle of nowhere and I didn't have one, so I had to do the best I could. Dry fit again. Checking everything looks pretty good. I did have a couple of chips, so I ended up trimming the top a little more on the right side. You can see the chips. you'll probably have that to some degree if you're not too careful. Having a sharp blade would help. You could use a scoring tool if you got to cut a lot. If you have to cut just a little bit, it's a little bit harder to use a scoring tool. Jigsaws, a lot of jigsaws have a blade. The blade, a normal blade, cuts on the upstroke. They do make blades that cut on the downstroke. You could purchase a blade to cut on the downstroke to minimize chipping. But usually a sharp blade, you shouldn't have this problem. This is an old top too, but I was able to fix that and get it to cover. So what I'm using here is some clear silicone. Don't use PL on your self-rimming sinks. Don't use adhesive caulking. Use some silicone or plumber's putty. And then after I put a light bead on there, just kind of build a dam for water, mostly to keep water from getting under it. And try not to wiggle your sink around too much and squirt that stuff out of there. This thing's pretty tight in that hole. So take a towel, wipe off any excess. If it happened to squirt out, you can take some lacquer thinner, clean off any silicone residue. That stuff will work good on that. It won't hurt the countertop. I do have a sink strainer. The old sink had a garbage disposal, so I got a new strainer going in here. And here's a couple little things about these strainer baskets. After you get your putty on there, you squish it in there and get your nut started. Get you a good basket wrench like this, one-handed wrench. One to hold the basket from moving around and the other one to tighten that nut. I'll have some links to those couple of tools if you want to take a peek at them in the description. But crank it down a little bit. Give that putty some time to squeeze out of there. Clean it off. You'll have to probably snug it up a couple of times and make sure that the ring is centered. But yeah, having the right tools for those really makes it a lot easier. That would be a basket wrench, and that would be your retainer nut tool, one-handed deal. Got all my plumbing hooked back up, the drains and everything. I did have to raise that hot water shutoff there about 4 inches. My supply line was a little short, but a little bit of soldering, no big deal. But yeah, it turned out pretty good. My osmosis faucet, I got to get a different one for that. But other than that, pretty good project. So I hope those tips helped you out.